Hi everybody. This video is going to be on the elaboration likelihood model, also known as ELM. You'll need it for your project. So let's dive into it. So first we're going to watch two different ads. One from State Farm, one from Amica, both for car insurance. So here's the State Farm ad.
I told you you were too close, but nobody ever listens to me. No, 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 no. I mean, who does that? Backs a car into another car? You know what? You make my head numb. I can't even. Ugh.
Like a good
My head
neighbor,
is numb.
State Farm is there.
I'll take care of this. With a new boyfriend. Hot.
With a new girlfriend.
Oh, this is what you like.
Yes, it is.
I was perfect the way I was. Okay.
State Farm agents are there when you need them.
I told.
It's good, but I don't want to watch it twice. I love that woman's voice. Anyway, here's the second ad. This is Amica Insurance.
Who calls Amica for auto insurance? People who know what value is all about. Because when you call Amica, you get more than a great price. We'll talk with you about your coverage options, answer every question, and customize a policy that's perfect for you. It only takes a few minutes to get a free, no-obligation auto insurance quote. So call Amica now. We also offer a wide variety of auto insurance discounts, and we'll make sure you save every dollar possible from every discount you qualify for. When you call, ask how you can save even more by combining your auto and home insurance. Then you'll have your policy with a company recognized for customer service. And if you have a claim, that's when Amica really proves our worth. With claim service that will take care of every detail and is there for you every step of the way. For the savings and the service, it's always worth it to call Amica. Call 866-58-AMICA. See how much you can save today and meet the company you'll stay with for good.
Definitely don't want to watch that one again, huh? So very different advertisements in their approach. So the elaboration likelihood model was developed as a model for persuasion, to get people to change their attitudes, change their beliefs about things. And it, uses a lot of the ideas in perception and comprehension that we've already talked about. So it's very suitable for marketing. It was developed by a couple of communication professors. And here's the original model. And it looks complicated, but it really isn't. And I have a simpler model we'll look at, a version, not really simpler, it's just probably a little better laid out. So it's easier to see. And I'll give you a quick overview of the model, then we're going to go back through it, so it'll be a little bit repetitive. But it's built around the idea of, a person receives a persuasive communication. It could be an ad, it could be a salesperson, it could be just one of your friends trying to, tell you something that's important to them and get you to do something. All right? And so, we receive that communication. And based upon our ability, motivation, opportunity, one of two things is going to happen. So if we look at that green route, all right here, it's a central route processing. That means we're paying attention. There's high elaboration. It's deliberate. The meaning is a deeper meaning. And so then it has an impact on us. It either reinforces what we believe, or, we may change how we feel about something. And so it has some type of change to our schema or our knowledge. The red, on the other hand, we don't really pay attention to the message. That's car insurance. I think that woman's voice in the State Farm ad, it cracks me up, right? That's what I remember more than anything. Okay, and so we pay attention to these. We call them peripheral cues, or that's what they call them, peripheral cues. So we really don't think about them. All right, there's no elaboration. We don't really attach it to anything. It's in one ear, out the other. It's little, elaboration. It's automatic processing, and it may have an impact, but we've probably forgotten it in 5-10 minutes, unless there's a lot of repetition. So, just to review. I'll try to come back to that picture, but it's a little difficult doing this. The basic tenets, right? 2 levels of processing, right? And, the one thing that we want to really focus on here is, hey, as we said, hey, central route, we pay attention, we process it. It's like Winnie the Pooh banging his head, if you've seen Winnie the Pooh, think, think, think. And remember here in the middle, it says the consumer's cognitive responses are they're more highly elaborated upon, and they make them more memorable and deeper in meaning. But what I want you to focus on is it's not so much the message that is what we encode or remember and in our knowledge. It's our response to it. It's how we feel about it. All right, so it doesn't mean you believe it. So take, politics nowadays. So if you're a Republican and a Democrat comes out and says something, your response is going to be, that's a lie, it's not true, whatever. That's the response that they're going to, put into their memory, and it will be part of their knowledge, and vice versa. Right? If a Republican says something, then a Democrat's going to have their own negative response. It's not that they believe, but they're going to end up, not believing. And that's what's going to influence them. And they're going to think Republicans are even bigger liars than they already believe them to be. So remember, it's the person's response to the persuasive communication that's what gets encoded. That's what becomes part of memory. So, peripheral route processing, right? Less attention, processing a message, superficial. All right, we focus on simple elements, things that capture our attention, are pleasing, and whatever. So we call those peripheral cues. Peripheral, right? Because they're peripheral to the message. What are some examples? And there's a whole bunch of them. Attractiveness of the spokesperson, humor, quantity of arguments, not the quality of them. Novelty, credence claims that can't be proven. In other words, we're the best, we're number one. All right, and there's no way to prove it. Emotional stimuli, things that give us, draw out our emotions, and they try to tie. Remember, and if you remember from earlier or looked in the module, transference, sex, all right, attitude toward the ad, a whole bunch of different ones, and we'll go over a bunch. All right, but people process the information pretty superficially. All right, and so forth. They don't elaborate very much. They're kind of in one ear, out the other. Oh, that's cool. I kind of like it. It's funny. Yeah, it's like one of those things where you remember the humor in the ad, but you can't remember the brand. Not particularly a great ad. All right. So anybody's response is they have a temporary effect. They don't really get embellished or elaborated on in people's schemas. So central route, hey, I get it. You update your knowledge and thinking in some way. Peripheral route, you see the ad, haha, oh, whatever it is, kind of, you get those feelings, and it's humorous or whatever emotion or thing it draws out, but you can't really remember anything about it a little bit later. All right, so what determines which way you go? All right, central route or peripheral route. So there's three moderating variables. So depending upon, how a person, these variables affect a person will determine whether they're more likely to go central route or peripheral route. Okay. So one of them is motivation. All right. So that's involvement, right? Things that are personally relevant to us because either it's something we care about, we have an interest, all right? Your sports, fashion, technology, all that kind of stuff, music, your favorite artist. Those are all things that you kind of normally pay attention to, and you're more likely, to process that information, central route. All right? So, we talked about MEC, there's a link to important values. All right? If it doesn't link up to any of your motivation, right, even situational involvement, temporary involvement, then we're less likely to, pay attention to it. Ability. So we can be motivated, all right, but do we have the expertise to, understand the ad? Maybe the ad's about investing, and there's a lot of financial terms. Maybe it's about, new technology, and, and older people they don't really understand. They want it, they want to know, but they can't get it, right? Okay? Can they really judge what people are saying? All right? And if people don't have the ability, the experience to process the information, right? They're more likely to depend on peripheral cues. And the last one is opportunity. All right. Do we have the time? Are we in the proper mood, you know, to process the persuasive communication? Are there too many distractions, right? Just think of, you get spam calls, right? You're not going to pick them up, right? You don't have the opportunity. Even if it was something it wasn't spam, it was something important, you're not going to pick it up if you don't know, you don't recognize the number, right? If you're with a bunch of friends and somebody calls and they try to talk to you and then you're like, no, I'm too busy, boom, right? So you have other stuff on your mind, right? Internal distractions, things that are more important. You don't have the opportunity to process that information. All right. So, kind of what we said, all right, is that you need to have all three of those in sufficient levels to be able to get people to really pay attention to your ad. All right. They have to have the ability, they have to have the motivation, and they have to have the opportunity to do so. That means the time or whatever they need it in the proper environment. All right. And so, what marketers have to do is create situational involvement, which is make it important right now somehow. All right. Grab their attention, grab their emotions. All right. Get some physical arousal so they're more likely to pay attention to it. And then you have a better shot. All right. But it makes a lot of sense, at certain times of the year for different things that are important to people. All right. But if you have a product that many people have high involvement with them, you can, use central route advertising. All right. And if you have a good way to, stimulate need recognition, hey, I have a problem or there's an opportunity, you probably can get people. All right. Geico came out of nowhere as an insurance company. 15 minutes may save you 15%. Obviously, got enough people to call and check it out. All right. And because they processed that information, because, hey, they did really well at a time when money was tight for everybody. So saving, $500 was a lot of money. So people were willing to do it. I would say that low elaboration seems to be the norm, especially with our ability to use selective exposure and selective attention. We don't want to watch ads. We don't want any of that stuff. We don't want to waste our time, and we have the means, all right? Some type of clicker, mouse, whatever, tap. We don't have to watch it. And so, we are cognitive misers, which means that, by our nature, we don't want to tie up our brain with too much inconsequential stuff that's going on. Because back in the day, long ago, if I'm thinking about stuff that's not important, I may miss that opportunity, food, right, that's available, or a game I could catch, or a threat, an animal hunting me, all right, an enemy. So we tend to not want to do that. We want to push aside things that aren't that important to us so we can focus our limited, workbench memory on things that are important to us so we can react quickly. All right. So it can seem, like the problem with low elaboration is, okay, so you can get people to kind of pay attention and, oh, I know who that is. That's a famous person, or that's that was Snoop Dogg in it was actually Snoop Dogg in the General Insurance ad, or Shack, or whatever it is. Okay, but what makes it work, elaboration processing, is repetition. All right, because we said, hey, earlier, what makes something stand out more over time? Different concepts and constructs, and we said, repetition and rehearsal. So the more we see it, hear it, the more likely we are to remember it. And there's an old quote, famous quote from the CEO of Coke from long time ago, saying thank God for Pavlov and classical conditioning, Pavlov's dog, where they ring the bell and the dog salivates, because that's the basis of modern advertising. So he was just saying that low elaboration works because we can show you lots of ads. And whether you want to or not, you're going to understand the ad, and you're going to incorporate it into your beliefs. Okay, so what are some different peripheral cues? And I believe there will be links up also to some places where you can read these in more depth. Right, so these 5 or 7 of them come from another communication professor who got quite famous for the book he wrote on this. So one is the idea of social proof. Sorry for the bad, um, you know, PowerPoint there. But hey, so the more we see other people with it, using it, doing it, that's why influencers are so strong. The more we think it's true, right? More people have it, it's got to be something to it, right? And just think about it. You know, too, if you see somebody walking around Springfield sagging their pants and you're like, oh, that's so old, right? No social proof. Nobody else has it, then it can't be that good, right? These are all substitutes for really kind of thinking about it or getting real proof. Hey, authority and credibility, that's what I have, right? Okay, might as well show them all, right? I know I'm the professor, right? I went to college for this. I did, master's degree and more research and more school after that. And so, hey, they know better. So they're the experts. Experts aren't always right, and experts may have their own agenda. Right, infomercials that have doctors that want to sell you something to remove wrinkles or make your teeth whiter than a dentist can. They're making money off of that. So it doesn't mean that they really have the motivation that you would want. Scarcity. The rarer it is, the more it's selling out. Only a few left. Get yours now. Means it must be more valuable because other people are buying it. It's kind of part of social proof. Reciprocity. Right? In our culture, most of the time, if somebody does a solid for you, something for you, you feel like you need to, reciprocate, do something for them. One of the, older tricks in marketing research was to send out, surveys to people, include a dollar bill. And they'd get a much higher response rate because if they took the dollar bill, they felt they had to fill it out. They needed to reciprocate. So give something free or away, and people are more likely to give you attention. Okay? And then consistency and commitment. Again, really another cultural idea that once we kind of state a commitment or we act in a certain way or believe certain things, we should stay consistent, regardless of whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And economists will talk about a sunk cost, where we keep putting good money after bad money. All right, we've already made a bad investment. We keep putting good money into it, even though it's not going to work out. So people, have that commitment. They don't want to flip flop. That's not a positive way to be. So those are all things that can be used in peripheral cues. More peripheral cues. Oop, this is a strange place for it to show up, but heuristics. So heuristics is kind of a terrible word, but they're just kind of rules of thumb in decision making. Quick ways to make decisions without really thinking about it, without really doing central route processing. So, hey, I like somebody, all right, they're nice, and compared to somebody else, I'm more likely to believe what they like, all right? They have more credence, right, more credibility. Things I'm familiar with, right? Familiar things always make us feel more comfortable. The more familiar I am with a character, an actor or an actress in commercials, etc., the more I'm going to like it. Similarity, the more the spokesperson is more like me, the more credible they are. All right, just like I doing another class, I say, how come you guys never ask me what's going on campus and on the, in the weekends? Well, because I'm older and I wouldn't know. I'm not like you. So we tend to believe people who are more like us. Emotional appeals, right? We kind of did a lot of some of the ads we saw in the previous PowerPoint on emotions, right? They make us laugh, they make us feel, right? They make us excited, they make us sad, they reach us emotionally. May not have anything to do with the product, but we get a certain feeling that sticks with us because it brings up our own feelings and maybe other times that we've had those, experienced those feelings. And then sometimes we just like the ad, right? All the humor. Right? I like the mayhem. I like the Allstate ads. I think that guy's funny. Dean, I even know his name, Dean Winters. He had his own TV show, and it didn't work out for him. But I just really enjoy those ads. And so, it doesn't mean I'll buy Allstate, but I like those ads. You think I say car insurance, it's probably one of the first ones that pops in my mind because the mayhem guy. All right, and you got it right there, right? Spreading activation. It all makes us feel good, and then pretty soon later on, that happens enough. And this is part of learning theory and classical conditioning, and etc., which we'll do in the next module. But we can't separate the feelings from where we got them from the brand. We just know the brand makes us feel good after a while. Okay, so here's an ad from Cox Communications, and actually, let me just show it to you. All right, but this is like they're trying to do transference here.
Have no fear, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be.
There's a lot to worry about in life. Cox gives us one less thing to worry about online with advanced Wi-Fi security for everyone in your home.
So, I think that's a well-crafted ad, but let me catch up. I think it's really sleazy because it's taking, if you have children who and telling you like how vulnerable they are, and that's true, right? And all that stuff right there, and then they're trying to tell you that your internet security is going to stop all that stuff. They're just wanting you to have this emotion of I need to protect my kids. It's so difficult out there with social media and the internet and the web, which is true. And then I need Cox Communications. I just think it's unethical to a point. All right. Anyway, and now here are some heuristics, right? These are just some of them. These are the things that we use when we don't feel like really figuring out which thing's best, and we just it worked before, and we're going to use it again, right? Availability, right? What's the first thing that pops in our mind? Where to go to eat, where to go to shop for things. All right, that's a function of how many times we've been there, how strong that construct is in our memory, strength of associations, and so forth. More is better, right? That always seems better, right? I get more stuff. It's bigger, right? I kind of fall for that one, especially when it comes to food. It may not be better food, but the more is always better, right? You get more for your price. It's not always going to do the job better. It doesn't mean that it's the quality that you need. Quality price relationship, right? I tell you, if you want to pass the class, bring me a bottle of bourbon. If you don't know anything about bourbon, nor does the person who works at the store, well, you're probably going to pick out an expensive one. Why? Because, it's probably the better bourbon's probably more expensive. Not everything has a price-quality relationship. And even if there is a price-quality relationship, brands that are expensive oftentimes aren't good. They're just playing on that, right? If you look at eBay or Amazon, there's a lot of things with high prices, and they're not that good, I promise you. And then again, this is not as true so much anymore, but a brand name is better than a store brand. For food, that's probably in supermarkets, that's not really that true anymore, but but certainly a known brand name to us is better than an unknown brand name. And all things being equal, probably not really sure. Maybe it's not that important. We'll pick the brand name we know. So, and we have more peripheral cues, which I'll have some more later. But, you know, we're going to move on. So sometimes we want arguments, right? And sometimes we want cues, right? Depending on how we're doing, right? So the trick is, hey, figuring out what ads to design for your target market, understanding the situation in which they'll probably be viewing them, and designing ads that either central or peripheral, right? And I'm not going to go through all those up there. You'll be able to click the links when I post this PowerPoint. And, also you need to put the media or your ad in the proper media. So people who want information, they're willing to watch a minute, 5-minute, 10-minute YouTube video. They'll go to your website to get information, so make sure it's there. Let them download white papers or specifications, more information. They'll read print advertising. If you still do print advertising, they're going to read blogs. They're going to read reviews. They want information. So you have to make sure that your brand is populated where there's information for people. Peripheral, okay, TikTok, TV, display ads, billboards, YouTube, GIF, microblogs, right? Instagram. It doesn't mean they can't also be central routes, right? And they can click to go to get more information. But, that's where you can capture people's attention and introduce your brand and, do it enough times that maybe they'll get some interest, maybe they'll click on it. I think the best ads are the ones that, try to do both. And I think both can be done. And E-Trade, these are relatively old ads, but I think they did a really good job in doing that. And so I'll just show you this one here, and you can look at the whole E-Trade collection. So I should have it up in YouTube. So this is one of their very first ones. So you can tell from the picture it's a little bit old. So it's this little baby in his crib with his tablet.
I'm in a timeout because apparently riding the dog like it's a small horse is frowned upon in this establishment. Luckily, though, I can conceal this bad boy underneath my blanket just so I can get on E-Trade, check my investment portfolio, research stocks. Wait, why are you taking... Oh, I see. Solitary. Just a man and his thoughts and a smartphone with an E-Trade app. Nobody knows.
And then here's another one. I'll skip ahead. This is a whole series of them. But let me go to this one here with Melody. We'll get a little bit, and this guy's going to burp in his mouth.
Whoa.
Hey guys.
Oh, Melody Hobson, what's poppin', babe?
Why don't you start by telling me what is a stock?
Yeah, a stock is a share in a company. Glad that's cleared up. You buy a stock in a company, and that it pretty much means you're part owner of it.
I think you look so pretty. Big brown eyes. I wore the sweater vest, for you. Do you like it?
You don't have to answer that.
Okay, let's move on. How about bonds?
Buying a corporate bond means you're loaning a company money for, a certain amount of time. It's kind of like a fancy IOU.
Sweet melody, oh harmony.
No.
You're like a dolphin to me. My love will set you free. And then...
Hey, girl, can I hit you back? No, well, you can't find them because they're not in season right now. Just squeeze them. All right, call you back. Sorry about that. You were saying?
Check this.
Okay, I can watch those for a while. But they do both, right? He's explaining what a stock is, a bond is. They're talking about you can trade on your tablet, you can trade on your smartphone, and so forth. And they got the funny babies there, saying funny things, talking like people. So I think they do a good job where they give good information. Even a baby can do it. There's one that says, a baby can do it. but they're also humorous and capture your attention. So they do both, central route processing and peripheral route processing. Okay, so when we think about the conclusions that people draw, all right, that's comprehension. All right, and again, I've already said this. Consumers' emotional and cognitive responses are what really affect perceptions. What you feel, you believe after you've seen the message. It's not what the message is. All right, and credible messages and claims may change your beliefs. All right, non-credible and non-believable claims may harden your beliefs. In other words, they backfire because you don't believe the Republicans, you don't believe the Democrats. They're lying. They're not telling you the truth. And consumers often have to make inferences. All right, so I want to show you this one. It's pretty well known, not for this, but it's quite a famous ad. Oh, it's so famous that they had to take it off. Let me do it. No, cola, truck downhill. Okay. So sorry about this, but let me go back. So Nikola partnered with Nikola, the owner was a billionaire, self-made billionaire, and they partnered with GM early to design an electric tractor trailer truck, right? The cab and the engine and everything. Okay, and this is quite a few years, not a long time ago. This is like 4 or 5 years ago, right? And, the two companies, GM had a lot of money to invest and they were going to have a partnership and do it. And, it would be a really big, gain for Nikola. So they put out this ad after a while, after they formed the partnership.
Vehicle. It's not just a pusher. It's not just a pusher. They just push and it doesn't move.
Okay, so so it looks like, all right, okay, and you can see the headline in YouTube. It looks like it's an electric truck. It's moving down the road, all right, and it's not going to make any noise, right, because it's electric. Well, they didn't have an engine in it. It was just rolling down the road because there was a slight decline. It was slightly going downhill, and you could hear them saying they pushed it, and they released that. And they got completely eviscerated by all the critics and everything, and they lost their partnership with GM. But unless somebody had hadn't spilled the beans on them, you would think that they really developed a truck that could do what they were showing it to. All right. So, we reach conclusions based upon the available information to us and the way we process it, or using heuristics, especially if we don't dig deep into trying to find out, whether it's really true or what it really means. So again, heuristics are these shortcuts we use all the time, right? Because it saves us time, all right, and so forth. So, price, quality, warranties, longer is better, brand name, country of origin, where's the best wine come from, where's the best olive oil come from, etc., etc. All right? And those things influence us, and it influence our emotional and cognitive responses, which we then, incorporate into our intelligence. Okay. Psychology, Gestalt. I'm going to do this really quick. Gestalt psychology. Oops, I gotta go up. Sorry about that. So, it's a long video. I apologize. Gestalt psychology came a long time ago, and it looks at stuff where it says, "Hey, people process things as a whole." All right, we always in psychology and research, we break things up into little pieces, right? The different stages, different steps. So people interpret things as a whole. And where it's really useful is in design, graphic design. So here are 7 principles, and we'll probably just look at these, and then we'll stop with just all this stuff will be available to you. All right, so here, all right, okay. So what do you see in this image? All right, triangle, Pac-Mans going at each other, right? Okay, so this is the idea of figure and ground, right? We see one thing in versus another. Something has to be in our forefront, what we look at, focus on, and the other stuff goes to the background. There's some other more famous images you can do for that, like 2 faces looking at each other, and it describes a vase or a candle, in between them. Which one do you see? And I read Google News, and like Sun newspaper is always doing this stuff. Well, whatever you see first indicates what kind of person you are. All right, but FedEx has that in their stuff. They have an arrow built into their logo. All right, this is closure. Okay, so this one is, hey, what do you see? Oh, it's a Dalmatian. But we build the line of the dog, his outline in there, but there's no line there where his back is, stomach is, tail is. We just see that and we fill it in. All right, so closure is used a lot, and where marketers can use closure a lot is, let you draw the conclusion. All right, you just have to be sure that you draw the right conclusion. All right, so we looked at, again, figure and ground. Apple, Steve Jobs. Which one do you see first? Okay, there's more examples in here. Okay, similarity. All right, we group things together. Similar things we tend to group together. All right, 2 separate groups based on the circles and the squares. All right, down below, again, we group things together. Proximity. Things that are closer together belong together. We see them together. Things that are separated by space, they're in different groups. Right? So, we see these as 3 different things, even though they have the same structure for them. All right, common region, right? States that objects, not all these are used. Common region states that when objects are located within the same closed region, we perceive them as being grouped together. So these people, if these are different people, they're all the same, and they're probably different from these people who are all the same. All right, even though within the groups, the people could be very different, a lot of heterogeneity. All right, again, we see this all as different pictures of, whatever this thing is advertising. All right, continuity, right? We go, whoop, all right, we can see this line, right? We follow lines. That's like directions, right? Pretty similar when we talked about attention. All right. And this is closure. Again, it's the same thing. It's the zebra without any lines outlining his body. We put that in automatically. And the other place closure is used is if you have a very popular long-running slogan, like Winston Cigarettes used to have, and some people also do this nowadays. They would play the music for the slogan, but they would leave the words out, or part of the words. First, they would start to do Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. Play that for many years, and then they do Winston tastes good like a, and in your mind you go cigarette should, right? You feel it, right? It's when you have somebody who talks really slowly and you need to finish your sentences. That's closure. You feel driven to close it, right? What they're trying to say. And then after a while, Winston just played the music, and you would say Winston tastes good like a cigarette should to the music. So closure, right? Right? We fill in the letters, right? There are really stripes in there, right? It's like shutters. But no, we see IBM. We see the peacock, right, in here. Okay? And so forth. And then, we make one, sorry about that, I don't know why it's being squirrely, but we make one thing stand out, right? Make one thing different from everything else. It really stands out. It's kind of like doing isolation, right? But a little bit different. Our eyes go to that focal point. Okay. So, let me go back to the PowerPoint. There are more examples of Gestalt. All right, simplicity is an important one. Similarity, continuation, closure, proximity, figure and ground. Okay, so I will post some other peripheral cues, but remember that's what the ELM model is, and it's what your project is based on. You're going to create an ad, one that focuses on central route processing, and select the right media for it and the right type of arguments or things that you want to have in your ad. And then you're going to do an ad for the same product, but your audience is more likely to be processing it peripherally. So you're going to design an ad that has, your brand name and maybe one message in it. People aren't going to pay attention to much, but you're going to put in, at least 3 peripheral cues to grab people's attention and evoke the emotion or feeling or thoughts that you want them to have. Okay, thank you very much.